Okay, welcome guys. So today we're going to talk about linear programming. Okay, so linear programming is a method used to find the best solution to problems that can be expressed in form of inequalities or linear inequalities, so to say. So here we're saying um, linear programming is the method used to find the best solution to problems that can be expressed in form or in terms of linear inequalities. Okay, so when we talk about linear inequalities, we're simply talking about mathematical expressions or that have this relationship. Either we have greater than here, greater than or equal to, less than or less than or equal to, like this here. When something involves this here, we call it a linear expression there. So meaning that here we're simply saying that linear programming is a method used to find the best solution to problems that can be expressed in form of or in terms of linear inequalities, like this here. Okay. So now, so forming of linear inequalities here. So I'll put a small subtitle here. So it's a forming of linear inequalities. Okay. So now, there's some terms that describe symbols for linear inequality there. So for example here, the first terms that we have here. So here, okay, I'll just put a statement here to say some of the terms. And symbols used to describe, or let me use the word imply here. Okay. Some of the words or symbols that are used that imply inequality include. Okay, so some of the words that we use there is so I'll write the first few words once here. So we have less than, then the symbol that we have for less than is this, then 2, we have a greater than, then the symbol that we have here is this here, then let's say 3 here, less than or equal to. The symbol that we have for this is this, like this here. and so that was 3. So the fourth one here, we're simply going to say greater than or equal to here. Okay, greater than or equal to like this. Then the symbol that we have here is like this here. So now, less than, greater than, or less than or equal to, greater than or equal to here. These are not the only terms that we can use there. So there are words that are used. For example, we have at least, at most, and not more than, again, more than, just like that here. So now, here, so we include other terms here. So I was just say other terms used. Other terms used. Now, okay. So other terms used that imply inequality. Okay, so other terms that use that imply inequality here, we have the word at least. Okay, so at least here. So now, this word at least simply just tells us, if we say, for example, let's say we say a number, we use a number 4 here. So if we say at least 4, we're talking about numbers that will start from 4, going to 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. So all these numbers here are greater than 4. So meaning that here, for at least here, the symbol that we use here is greater than or equal to like this here. Then here, the second word we have is at most. So now, at most, if we say at most 3 here, it simply means that the maximum number that you're supposed to go to there is 3. So meaning that if the maximum number is 3 here, this simply says that we have a 2 somewhere here and the 1 that is less or equal to 3 like this here. So meaning that for at most here, we simply use less than or equal to like this here. Then here, there's also more than. So more than, if we say, for example, more than 4, we're talking about numbers that are greater than 4 going this side here. So meaning that the symbol that we use here is just a greater than symbol here. Then here, so the other one, we've talked about it already, so that's less than. So for less than, we're simply talking about numbers. For example, if we use the same for here, if we say less than 4, we're simply talking about the numbers that are less than 4, which is 3, 2, 1, and so on and so forth. So now, let's look at examples where we can apply these words here and formulate inequalities there. So, example 1. So we have a student went shopping. So a student went shopping with let's say 15,000 kwacha to buy exercise books and pens like this here. So I try to say an exercise book it costs around 500 kwacha, while a pen while a pen costs 200 kwacha like that there. Like this here. he had to buy okay, let me do this. Okay, so he had to buy at least 3 exercise books and not more than 2 pens, like this here. Write down the inequalities that represent this information. Okay, so we have an example here. A student went shopping with 15,000 kwacha to buy exercise books and pens. An exercise book costs 500 kwacha, while a pen costs 200 kwacha. He had to buy at least 3 books and not more than 3 pens. Write down inequalities that represent this information here. So, first things first, let's look at the keywords that we have here so that we know what symbol to use there. So I'll use a different color for this. So let me just use red here. Okay. So now we're taught to say the total first that we have here is this 1500 or 15,000 kwacha that we have there. Then we also have the number here, the number of pens or the number of books that's needed. That's at least 3. So the word before here, before the books that I needed here, that we have this phrase here, at least, like this here. Okay, so we have at least there. Then we also have not more than. So here we have not more than here, like this here. Then now after doing this here, we're going to assign variables to represent exercise books and also variables to represent a variable to represent pens here. Then we know that this is the total amount that we have here. So meaning that whatever happens here or whatever happens during the shopping, it's not going to exceed this amount here because that's the amount that's already there. So meaning that here, whatever expression that we're going to have for this one here is going to be less than or equal to like this here. So they went shopping with this, so meaning that whatever amount that we're going to have, we're going to use here, or whatever amount is going to be used there is not supposed to exceed 15,000 kwacha here. So meaning that for it not to exceed 15,000 kwacha here, we're simply talking about less than or equal to 15,000 kwacha then. Then here, at least 3 books. So the word at least here, we not say that the symbol that we use for at least here is greater than or equal to like this here. Then not more than 2 pens. So not more than 2 pens. We're talking about the maximum number of pens that that person is supposed to get is 2. So meaning that here it's going to be less than or equal to like this here. So now that we've established what we need, what symbols we're going to use for expressions here, let's go ahead and assign variables to represent what we have here. Now, for our solution here, okay, so for our solution here, we're going to say we let x be equal to the exercise books, and then we let y be equal to pens, like this here. So now, from this whole expression that we have here, we know that we can have 3 expressions that we can make out of this whole example that we have here. So let me just scroll up a bit. So the first thing here is that the cost of a pen is 5, or the cost of a book is 500, or the cost of a pen is 200. So we have a 500 here and we have a 200 here. So we know that if this is, we've assigned x to represent books here. So meaning that this here in our expression is going to be 500x like this here, or 500x like that. Then we've assigned pen, we've assigned y to represent pen, so this becomes 200y like this here. Now we know that the cost of this here, the number that's going to be spent on this here, plus what's going to be spent here, should be less than or equal to this figure that we have here. Okay, so meaning that here, so that's going to be the final inequality that we're going to have there. Then let's go back to the question again here. We're told to say he needs to buy at least 3 exercise books here. So at least 3 exercise books here. We're going to say this is going to be 3x like this here. Oh, sorry. So that's going to be x shouldn't exceed 3 here. So the first inequality that we have here is going to be x here. At least 3. So meaning that x here is going to be greater than or equal to 3 like this. Okay. So let's come to y here. So y we're being told to say that not more than 2 pence. So not more than, we've said the symbol that we're going to use here is less than or equal to. So meaning that the second inequality that we have there, we're simply going to say y here is less than or equal to 2 like this here, because we're simply saying not more than 2 here. So now let's go back to the cost of the pen and the cost of a book here. So the cost of a pen is this 5,000 here, so it's going to, or 500 here, so it's going to be 500x and 200y here. So meaning that here, the third inequality that we're going to have there is going to be, we have 500x plus 200y here. Remember, this here is not supposed to exceed the 15,000 kwacha that we have. So meaning that here, this is going to be less than or equal to 15,000 like this here. So now, if you look at this third inequality that we have here, this can still be reduced. We have a common number that can go into everything that we have here. So that is 100. So if you divide this by 100, we divide this by 100, or this is 15,000, so you divide this 15,000 by 100 as well. You're going to have the final inequality, which is going to be 5x plus 2y is less than or equal to 150 this side here. So these 3 here are the inequalities that we can formulate from that example or question that we have on top there. Okay, let's look at a few more examples under the same here. So we'll say this is example 2. Like this here. So in a game, using a pair of dice, a player must score a total of more than 9 in order so a player must score a total of 9 in order to win. Okay. So using y for a number So using y for a number on one day, for a number. On another die, write the inequality that can be formed. Okay, so in a game using a pair of dice, a player must score a total of more than 9 in order to win a game. So that's the first thing that we're going to look at, a total of more than 9. So more than here. Okay, so let me use a different color for this as well. Okay, so more than 9 here, we're simply talking about greater than, like this here. So meaning that here, let's assign the variable. Let's assign the variable y and x there to represent the die that we have there. So meaning that here, the two inequalities that we have here, if x represents one die, okay, so we have x there representing one die, and we also have y representing one die there. Now, in order to win here, the first inequality that we have is that when you roll the two dice, the two dice that you have there, you're going to notice that for you to win, you need a combined total that exceeds 9 there. So meaning that here we're going to say x plus y should be greater than 9, like this here. So now, in this game here, we've only been told to win here. So sorry. Okay, we've only been told to win like this here. So now, winning, this is the expression for winning here. What about losing? If we're saying more than 9 to win here, so meaning that if you get 9 and below, so that's less than or equal to now. So if you get 9 and below, we're talking about losing here. So the chances that a player loses a game here, or the inequality that represents a player losing a game here, so the inequality that represents a player losing a game here is simply going to be x plus y should be less than or equal to 9, like this here. So this is for losing here, like this here, for losing a game. So this is the inequality that represents a player that loses a game. So this here is for winning a game, like this here. Like that. Okay. So this represents the inequality of a player winning a game, and this represents the inequality for a player losing a game, like this here. Okay. Let's look at one more example. So one more example here. We're saying example 3. Okay. So Mary went shopping with 8,500 kwacha, 8,500 kwacha, like this, to buy magazines and exercise books here. So the cost of each magazine here was 1,700 kwacha. Wow. The cost of an exercise book was 450 kwacha. Like this here. So she had to buy at least 2 magazines and 6 books. Write down three inequalities to represent this information. Okay, so Mary went shopping with 8,500 kwacha to buy magazines and exercise books there. So the cost of each magazine was 1,700. Wow, the cost of an exercise book was 450 kwacha. She had to buy at least, so let's look at these words that we have in this question here. So she had to buy at least. So for at least here, we're talking about greater than or equal to here. So at least 2 magazines and 6 books here. So this at least that we have here, it applies for both magazines and books that we have here. Then this is the total amount that she has here, this 8,500 here. So meaning that whatever inequality that we have here is not supposed to exceed this here. So meaning that the final inequality we're going to have here should have less than or equal to this amount that we have here. Now, first things first, we're going to assign variables to each cost that we have here. So here we're going to say we let x be equal to magazines here, and we let y be equal to the exercise books. Like this here. So then, the first inequality that we can have from here is that we're told to say that she has to buy at least 6 books here, so or at least 2 magazines here. So mean that our x there is going to be greater than or equal to 2 like this here. Then the second inequality here, and at least 6 books. So at least 6 books. So y should be greater than or equal to 6 like this here. Then we have this cost here that we have of a magazine here. So the cost of a magazine that we have there is 1,700 kwacha. So meaning that here we're going to say this becomes in an inequality, this is going to be 1,700 x like this here. So then the cost of an exercise book is 450 y like this. So this becomes 450. Okay, let me just erase that. Okay, so this becomes 450 y like this here. So now the summation of these two here should not exceed the total amount that we have, which is 8,500 here. So meaning that our third inequality there is simply going to be 1,700 x like this plus 450 y should be less than or equal to 8,500 like this here. So here we can divide by 10 throughout, so we can reduce this by 10. Oh sorry, that's supposed to be 10 there. So we can divide throughout by 10 here so that we reduce this inequality that we have here. So if you divide by 10 throughout, this is going to be 170x plus 45y less than or equal to 850, like this here. So these are the three inequalities that can be formed from there. Okay, so this is the first part of our lesson in linear programming. Okay, thank you.